Hello and welcome to our channel. Today we shall be talking about an important concept in public health program design, management, and evaluation. It's called the theory of change. Any public health program is well intentioned. That means there is a situation and we want that situation to improve, to change. For example, there's a lot of neonatal mortality, and we want to create programs in which newborn care inside neonatal intensive care units is absolutely strengthened so that when babies go out, they thrive well. That means an impact is intended with some input. This impact can just happen if we start going berserk and start a range of interventions. But we always want to link this impact to the inputs that we do. That means there has to be a well thought out, well designed, well planned roadmap which links the impact with the input. This roadmap that gives the why and how a program's input would link to the program's impact. It is called the theory of change. Now, the theory of change is an important concept because it gives us a fair idea of what is intended, what is done, and how that links to the overall impact. But this is linked together through a chain of different elements. We want an impact. This impact must be linked back to out. This must be linked back to outputs, which must be through a chain of processes. So even if the way theory of change is represented in literature, the practical way of looking at a theory of change is to read it backwards from impact to outcomes to outputs to processes and inputs. What are inputs? Inputs are actually the what resources we are actually putting into the program. Those are called the inputs. So it could be in the form. Let's design a theory of change in real time. My impact is that my newborns thrive. That means this is something that requires a prospective follow up. This is something that requires scale, a longitudinal follow up and scale. For newborns to thrive, these newborns must gain weight. These newborns must be able to bond with their mothers, with their families, and these newborns must develop. Typically, that means there has to be adequate neurodevelopment. Now, it's very difficult to check for neurodevelopment inside NCUs, but yes, they are performing optimally as per their age. How could this happen? So what I'm doing is I'm linking it here. So these three things, if they happen, I would say that in the long term. So if these things could be achieved in the medium to long term, in the longer term, the impact would show up as newborns thriving and growing up to be productive human beings. I need to have a concept, some hypothesis, some theory here, which links me to these three outcomes. For example, KMC is being delivered to these babies, which could lead to exclusive breastfeeding. And besides these two things, they are given protocolized treatment inside NCUs. And further, mothers are allowed inside NCUs. So family participatory care. If I achieve these four outputs, I can say that eventually these will lead to these three outcomes. So these 4 or 5 outputs in the immediate term could lead to, in the short to medium term, these three outcomes in the longer term would link to the impact. To achieve these KMC being delivered, exclusive breastfeeding, protocolized treatment, family participatory care, there have to be some processes that need to be done. Let me say that what I could do is like this is a complex public health intervention, and complexity operates at least 3 levels. So my complexity operates at something at the systems level, something at the NCU level, and maybe something at the family level. So I plan my inputs in a way that they link to the processes. For example, at the systems level, I start engaging with the leadership and also providing resources, for example, KMC chairs. At the NCU level, I provide training to the staff. I provide with some SOPs and guidelines so that they could go for protocolized management. And then at the family level, I run some kind of IC or awareness or one-on-one dialogue, some communication. Now, by doing these activities, what processes will be achieved? So, if I engage with the leadership, then the process is multiple meetings with the leadership. If I provide resources, then the process would involve provisioning of like mobilizing funds and getting or procuring these resources. If I provide training resources, for example, I provide training manuals and modular modules, then some training sessions would be conducted here. If I provide SOPs, then the SOPs need to be trained upon. And if I provide IECs, then those IEC sessions must be organized with the family members. So all these are processes. For example, if there is training sessions conducted, then the output would be staff is trained, number of staff trained. Now, if you look at how this plays out, this even if it looks quite watertight, these may still be linked in some sequence, and the differentiation between outputs and outcomes could merge if we look at it in a more detailed way. So the number of training sessions conducted, number of staff trained, number of mothers oriented, sensitized, those are immediate outputs, which will gradually lead to number of KMC sessions delivered, exclusive breastfeeding session, babies on exclusive breastfeeding, protocolized treatment delivered to babies on this many number of babies. So those things will also play out, eventually leading to long-term outcomes. Now these outcomes can look like very much like objectives, and these are activities. So what really happens is a natural progression from a theory of changes towards the log frame, where we want to have a log maintained for the activities linking to the objectives, and then the indicators designed, the frequencies, the sources from which these indicators will be measured, who would measure them, and then a very logical sequence linked to the theory. But more importantly, the theory of change does not go like this only. We need to acknowledge the assumptions. In this context, in this situation, the assumption is that if I want to train mothers, mothers will be ready to get involved, to get inside the newborn care units and start delivering KMC. If I'm training my staff, the staff would be ready to accept the training. They would not be transferred out, or new staff would not be inducted during the course of this program. So certain assumptions would be there. And then I also need to indicate the context. Context means whether it is a which level of NCU is it? Is it a teaching institution? Is it well staffed or understaffed? What kind of babies this NCU accepts? Is it all inborn or outborn? Does this NCU have onward referral support or not? So those are contextual factors which will influence the way in which my program works. The theory of change is a very powerful tool when it is used for prospective planning, when it is used for proving that we did something and the outcomes were as per our intention. So these are intended outcomes, though we know that there are at times unintended outcomes as well. The theory of change also helps in designing the monitoring tool, the log frame. It also helps in identifying the key areas of observations and the key indicators for evaluating the program. Without a theory of change, it could be all chaotic. Without a theory of change, we could be also redundant. We'll be doing many interventions which make no sense or doesn't actually fall into any line. It doesn't tell a story. Nevertheless, even if the theory of change is one of the favorites of public health evaluators, public health programmers, designers, it also has limitations. I hope this orientation was useful, but we'll follow this up with another video where we discuss the caveats